You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith. Hey there, Sprouts. Today is Friday, February 19th, 2021. This week on the Catholic Sprouts podcast, we have been journeying from ordinary time into Lent. So we are currently in the season of Lent. And as a reminder, Catholics avoid eating meat on Fridays during Lent. And today is a Friday. So if your parents decide that you are old enough to join the church in this day of fasting, then I encourage you to take that seriously. It is also wise, if you are old enough once again, to avoid eating between meals or eating too much food on Fridays. And we do this to remind ourselves once again that only God can satisfy us. And that when we feel that hunger, it is a reminder to turn to God for our needs and not necessarily to run to the pantry for a granola bar. So today we are going to talk about the things that we can expect to hear and feel during this season of Lent. So the first thing that you might have noticed is that during Lent, we begin the gospel part of the liturgy of the word at Mass in a different way. Since we're in Lent, I won't even say the word that we're not supposed to say, but we don't say the A word, that big Easter A word. We instead bury that word and we enter into a bit of the time. We kind of put ourselves back before the resurrection. We imagine that we are living this world before Christ has risen from the dead. So we don't say that word anymore. Now, another thing that you are going to see at Mass during Lent, of course, is that everything is purple. And there is this part in Lent at most churches where they actually take purple drapery and they cover up the crucifix, the big icons, the big pictures. We drape those with purple. Now, why do we do this? Well, we do this just as a way of making things quieter and more still. In fact, that is the one thing that you can expect to hear in Lent: more silence, more stillness. The whole point here is to strip away all of the things that might have distracted us and to focus in so completely on Jesus Christ Himself. Most especially at the end of Lent, when we are walking with Jesus through the Passion, so that we focus in exactly on what is happening as He's carrying that cross through the streets of Jerusalem, as they are pounding the nails into His hands. So even the images of saints in our churches, we cover those so that we may focus in on Jesus. Now, tomorrow we have two feast days that we're celebrating, two great saints that were a brother and sister. Some of my favorites, they are Jacinta and Francisco Marto. They are the visionaries from Fatima. Mary appeared to them, and along with their cousin Lucia, and she had all sorts of amazing messages for them. At the end of several months of her appearing once a month, there was a great miracle in Fatima where they saw the sun spinning in the sky, and where these three visionaries, Francisco, Jacinta, and Lucia, actually saw in the heavens several images of Mary, Saint Joseph, and Jesus. And also, the Fatima visions have been recognized as official Marian apparitions by the church. Just a beautiful time. So these small children, they were poor shepherd children in Fatima. That is who Mary decided to appear to. And there's many things we can say about Fatima, but what I meditate on, especially here in Lent, is that Mary came to these children who were 10 years old, 8 years old. She came to them and she spoke to them about the value of their suffering. She asked Francisco to pray many rosaries, but she also showed them many souls in hell suffering. And she told these children, she said, your suffering offered to me can help to save souls from hell. And so these children, even though they were still very young, they looked for every opportunity to suffer, to welcome suffering so that they could give that to Mary so that she could work through God to save souls from hell. They were known oftentimes to give away their lunch. Even though they were poor and probably had not much food for breakfast, they had a small sack for lunch as they went out to tend the sheep, and they would give it away so that they would have hunger, the suffering of hunger to offer up to God. They would even sometimes let the sheep eat their food so that they could offer up that suffering. Both Francisco and Jacinta actually contracted something called the Spanish flu in a pandemic that reached all the way around the world in the early 1900s. They suffered a lot. Medicine was very painful and very invasive at the time. They both ended up dying when they were very young. And yet Jacinta, in a vision, Mary appeared to her and asked her if she would like to die and come to heaven, or if she would like to suffer more to offer that up for the forgiveness of sinners. And Jacinta, who wasn't even 10 years old, told Mary that she would welcome more suffering so that more sinners could be forgiven. Now, Sprouts, I'm not asking you to do anything dangerous, and I'm certainly not asking you to throw away the good food that your parents give you, but I do want you to think about this. Mary appeared to children, and she told them that their suffering they chose, suffering that they offered directly to her, that it could help in the work of forgiving sins. She says the same thing to you. So in what way will you not complain? In what way will you welcome the small bits of suffering that come into your life and see them as something valuable that can help redeem sinners? Think about this, pray about this, and reinvest in whatever you have decided to do for Lent this year. That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God created you to be. Just one more thing. We are excited to announce that the Domestic Church Project app is open and enrolling families all week long. So if you would like to add one of our amazing whole family programs to your Lent, including our audio version of the Jesus Tree, we encourage you to come and join us. There is so much in this app for Catholic parents and their whole families. We have thriving small groups, formation for parents on Catholic social teaching, and so much more. To learn all about our app and to join us, simply check the notes for this podcast episode.